Hello everyone, welcome back to Bitewise Academy. In our previous video, we learnt about computer memory, how RAM, ROM, cache memory, and storage devices help a computer store and access information. But have you ever wondered who actually processes all this information? The answer is the CPU or the Central Processing Unit. In today's video, we will learn what a CPU is, why it is called the brain of the computer, its main components, how it works, clock speed, CPU cores, cache memory, and finally, we will compare CPU, RAM, and storage. So let's begin now. First, let us see what is a computer. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. It is the most important component of a computer because it performs almost every task. Whenever you open an application, type on the keyboard, browse the internet, watch videos, play games, or even move the mouse, the CPU is continuously processing instructions. It reviews instructions, performs calculations, and controls every operation inside the computer. Without a CPU, a computer simply cannot function. That is why the CPU is often referred to as the heart and brain of the computer. Whatever task we do, the CPU is continuously processing instructions. Without a CPU, the computer simply cannot function. That is why the CPU is often referred to as the heart and brain of the computer. Why is the CPU called the brain? Okay. First, think about a human brain. Our brain receives information through our senses, processes that information, makes decisions, and sends signals to different parts of our body. The CPU works in a very similar way. Exactly the same way human brain works, the CPU also works in a very similar way. It receives data from input devices like the keyboard and mouse, as humans gets information from the outer world through their senses. Exactly the same way, computer devices gets information from the input devices like keyboard and mouse and etc. It processes that information, then it sends instructions to output devices such as monitor or printer. Exactly the same way, our brain processes the information and gives signals to the all body parts. For example, when you click the calculator application, the CPU receives your click, opens the application, performs calculations, and displays the answer on the screen. Every action you perform on a computer passes through the CPU. Let us see the application of opening a calculator. The CPU receives your click, opens the application, performs calculations, and displays the answers on the screen. Every action of this sequence you performed on a computer passes through the CPU. That is why it is called the brain of the computer. Let us see the components of the CPU. CPU has three main components. They are control unit, arithmetic and logic unit, and then registers or memory unit. The control unit manages and coordinates all activities inside the computer. It tells every component what to do and when to do it. It tells every component what to do and when to do it. It controls and manages and coordinates all activities inside a computer. It acts like a traffic police officer directing vehicles at a busy intersection. It acts as a traffic police officer directing vehicles at a very busy intersection. The control unit itself does not perform calculations. Control unit is not responsible for performing calculations. Instead, it controls the flow of the data and instructions. Next one is Arithmetic Logic Unit. The ALU performs all arithmetic and logical operations. Arithmetic operations include addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Logical operations include greater than, lesser than, equal to, true or false comparisons, and all this. Whenever you calculate numbers or compare values, the ALU is responsible. So the ALU is responsible for calculating and comparing values. The last one is registers or memory unit. Registers are tiny memory locations inside the CPU. They temporarily store data, instructions, and intermediate results. These registers temporarily store data, instructions, and intermediate results. Registers are much faster than RAM because they are located inside the CPU itself. Registers are much faster than RAM because they are located inside the CPU itself. They hold information only while the CPU is processing it. Only the information which is being processed by the CPU will be held in the registers. Okay, now let us see how does the CPU work. The CPU follows a continuous process called the fetch, decode, execute, store cycle. Okay, CPU follows a continuous process called the fetch, decode, execute, and store. Now let us understand each step. Fetch. The CPU first fetches an instruction from the computer's memory. For example, it may receive the instruction to add two numbers. Then decode. Next, the CPU decodes the instruction. It determines exactly what operation needs to be performed. Next, execute. Now the CPU executes the instruction. If it is an addition, the ALU performs the calculation. Finally, store. The result is stored either in a register or back in memory. The entire cycle happens incredibly fast, millions or even billions of times every second. Okay, this cycle of fetch, decode, execute, and store happens incredibly fast, like millions or even billions of times every second. Next one is CPU clock speed. The speed of a computer is measured by its clock speed. Clock speed tells us how many processing cycles the CPU can perform every second. Clock speed tells us how many processing cycles the CPU can perform every second. It is measured in megahertz or gigahertz. 1 gigahertz means the CPU can perform approximately 1 billion clock cycles per second. Okay? Generally, a high clock speed allows the CPU to process more instructions per second. However, clock speed alone does not determine performance. Other factors such as the number of cores, cache memory, and processor architecture also play an important role in determining the performance of a computer. Next is the CPU core. In earlier computers, CPUs usually had only one core. Modern CPUs contain multiple cores. Each core is responsible for processing instructions independently. Each core is capable of processing instructions independently. Common types include single core, dual core, quad core, hexa core, octa core. More cores allows the CPU to handle multiple tasks simultaneously. More cores allow the CPU to handle multiple tasks simultaneously. For example, you can attend an online meeting, download a file, and browse the internet at the same time on your computer. Each core shares the workload, making the system faster and more efficient. Okay, the applications like attending an online meeting, downloading a file, and browsing the internet all at a time simultaneously can be taken care by different cores. Okay. Next is the CPU cache. Cache memory is a very small but extremely fast memory located inside or very close to the CPU. Its purpose is to store frequently used data and instructions. Its purpose is to store frequently used data and instructions. Instead of retrieving the same data repeatedly from RAM, the CPU first checks the cache. Since cache memory is much faster than RAM, this improves the computer's performance. There are three levels of cache, L1, L2 and L3 that we have seen in the previous lesson. In many processors, it is shared by multiple CPU cores. Think of cache memory as your study desk. The books you need most often are kept on the desk, so you don't have to keep walking to the bookshelf. Similarly, cache keeps frequently used data close to the CPU. Now let's compare CPU, RAM and storage. Many students get confused between these three components: CPU, RAM and storage. Three are different, but they all work together in order to make a computer efficiently useful for the end users. Let's compare them. The CPU processes data and executes instructions. CPU processes data and executes instructions. RAM temporarily stores the data and programs that are currently being used. Storage, such as SSDs or hard disks, permanently store files, documents, software, and the operating system. A simple way to remember this is the CPU is the worker, RAM is the worker's desk, storage is the cupboard where everything is kept safely. Let us understand this with a real life example. Imagine a restaurant's kitchen. The chef represents the CPU because the chef prepares the food. Chef is a CPU. The kitchen counter represents the RAM because ingredients currently being used or placed there. The kitchen countertop is compared to the RAM. The refrigerator represents storage because it keeps ingredients safely for long-term use. The spice box beside the chef represents cache memory because frequently used ingredients are kept within easy reach. Okay, this example clearly shows how all these components work together in a computer. Now finally, let's have a quick revise of today's lesson. Today we have learnt CPU, that stands for Central Processing Unit. It is called the brain of the computer. The CPU has three main components: the control unit, arithmetic logic unit, and registers or memory unit. It works using the fetch, decode, execute, store cycle. CPU speed is measured using clock speed. Multiple CPU cores improve multitasking. Cache memory stores frequently used data for faster access. CPU, RAM, and storage each have different roles, but they all work together. CPU, RAM, and storage, they have different roles but work together. So I hope you now have a clear understanding of how the CPU works and why it is considered the brain of the computer. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to Bytewise Academy. In our next video, we'll explore the motherboard, the component that connects and allows all parts of the computers to communicate with each other. Motherboard. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning. Thank you.